The Detroit Tigers start their West Coast road trip with a sweep in Anaheim over the Angels. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, September 18th, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Be sure to check out Sleeper. Sleeper is the best, and you can swing for the fences with Sleeper picks and win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app, use promo code Locked On, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Alrighty, well, the Tigers had a heck of a weekend. You know, at least one Detroit sports team did not disappoint over the weekend. Obviously, the Tigers have disappointed us plenty over the last 8 years. But this weekend was good. This was a really, really solid weekend for the Tigers. They go into LA. Look, man, the Angels are just, that lineup is remarkably bad at the present moment. And the rotation is not good. That is a team that is completely fallen apart. And Trout is probably not going to play baseball for them for the remainder of this season. Ohtani might never play baseball for the Angels again. We have no clue, but he's done for the year. They've had so many other injuries this season as well. Just really unfortunate. Rendon's contract is looking like one of, if not the worst in all of baseball. That is just an organization that, was kind of hanging on by a thread as is. Like, if it wasn't for Trout and Ohtani over the last couple of years, like, probably would not have even been as, even competitive as they were, which was already, like, not super competitive, right? And now those two are gone. Like I said, that they have a handful of injuries. This is not just, those two are gone and that's it. Like, they've had a lot of injury problems this season. And now, that the lineups they roll out there, man, are just, and again, like, we're the 27th ranked, 28th offense in baseball. Like, I'm not trying to talk down to them. Like, goodness gracious, we're not in a position to do that. This organization's been the definition of in disarray over the last 7 or 8 years. But man, that Angels team in September has been unbelievably bad. And when you look at some of the lineups they put out there this weekend, you see why. To the Tigers' credit, though, they take advantage. I don't want to just complain when we lose to bad teams. Like, they deserve the credit and the uplifting when they beat bad teams. And the Angels, present moment, are a bad baseball team. That is a rough product that they are rolling out there. And the Tigers took care of business on the road. And like, for most teams, you go, oh, they went, West Coast road trip. They went on the road and took care of business. We're now 2 games over 500 on the road this season. Like, there's a real chance that this team finishes, 10-ish games under 500 on the year and has an over 500 record on the road, which is, again, we'll complain about that a lot more in the offseason when we have a chance to, like, kind of calm down, let the dust settle, and really break down this entire season and the intricacies of it. And that will certainly be one that we do that with. But just so wild on a day-to-day and series-to-series, I guess, more so basis. Like, they are so much worse at home than they are on the road. And it's been a consistent thing throughout the year. But not going to complain about a sweep. And again, like, this is the starting off of a West Coast road trip. They go Anaheim, then they go Dodgers next. We'll preview that series at the end. Then they go Oakland, which, like, obviously the A's are terrible, but, like, still that West Coast road trips and are not gimmies, when you're an East Coast team. So or Eastern time zone, I guess we'll say, team for the Tigers' sake. So 9 games under 500 on the season now, 70 win total reached. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth at the end of the show. Let's start with Matt Verling, and we're gonna do a little bit of kind of jump all over the place because that's just how my brain works today. So let's start with Matt Verling. Matt Verling had a really solid weekend, and it's so noticeable that he's just trying to pull the ball. And like it only took 4 months of us complaining about it on this show, but like here we go. Like he's pulling the baseball, he's making an effort to pull the baseball. And like I said last week, dog, like he doesn't need, with Torkelson, it's like it's pull and elevate, right? It's get the ball in the air to the pull side. That's where all your power comes from. Even though he's had a couple of oppo shots in the second half of the season as well. But for the most part, with Verling, I'm not even asking for him to have like the perfect launch angle and pull the ball and, turn Matt Verling into a 20 home run hitter that also is in like the 95th percentile in speed. Like I'm not trying to make him, some crazy power speed combo guy, but I mean, this weekend is a prime example. He wasn't even hitting a ton of like homers. He didn't have like a 5-homer weekend or anything, but like he was pulling the baseball all weekend and even fastballs, which is, I didn't even know he could do that. I'm very impressed. I think that that's an awesome sign of development and adjustments being made in growth. And if he can do this the rest of the year and prove that it's not just like, like a couple of series fluke, like if he can actually do this the remainder of the season, 2 weeks left in the year, whatever. But if he can end the year on a month sample size of pulling the baseball and getting results from it, I will go into next season with a very different opinion of what I think Matt Verling could be. Maybe not what he is currently, but maybe what the heights that he can reach. Not to saying he's ever going to be like a 5-win player or like an all-star caliber player or anything like that, but I think maybe my ceiling of like, high 600s OPS, fourth outfielder, utility, super utility type can maybe be adjusted, and we can start talking about this dude being a corner outfielder on a decent team. Or maybe he's still the fourth outfielder, but that OPS or utility guy, if he can play a decent third base as well. But then maybe that OPS is like league average or better even, right? You start creeping up higher. Like I think him pulling the baseball can only lead to better things. So that's like a big thing I noticed over the weekend. And then Jake Rogers, I just want to have a general kind of, not too long. Again, we're only a few weeks away from doing like in-depth season breakdowns on everybody on this roster. So we'll save some of it for that conversation. But Jake Rogers, after Sunday's game, 220 average, 733 OPS, and a plus defender behind the plate, man. Like that is a valuable asset. And I know that some people are like still value batting average a lot and are going to be of the opinion like, like unless, 220 is like in today's day and age of baseball is first off, not terrible. But even for the crowd that is kind of like, like he's never going to hit for a good average. Like, I don't like that, whatever. Like he is an extra base hit machine. Like he does a low average, but it's all extra base hits. He has like one of the highest extra base hit percentages in the entire sport. And on this season now, he has the potential to end the year as a 2-win player at 2 WAR. Look, that's not a world beater. He's not Adley Rutschman, but like, man, like if he can, and I'm using fan graphs for that WAR calculation, by the way. If he can be a 2-win player in his first full season as the Detroit Tigers catcher at the major league level, I think that we would take that. I think if you told us going into the season that would be a possibility, that we'd all take it. The only other thing, again, like I don't really care about if his batting average gets a lot higher or not. If he keeps slugging, he keeps being a 20 home run threat. The only other thing I really am going to be critical of going forward is because I think it can raise his floor a lot more is walk more. Right? 7.8% walk percentage isn't terrible, but like if you're going to be a low average, high power guy and you're going to strike out 32% of the time, he strikes out a boatload, obviously. If I can have a plus defensive catcher that walks at a above league average clip and can run into 20 homers a year, like you're not going to find too many catchers that have higher ceilings than that, man. That's a good major league catcher. And he's going to be the primary catcher next year as well. So just wanted to point out, like, for as weird as a year as Jake Rogers has had, and for as little as he gets singles, I think that next year this is a really good building block, and I think next year he could be even like a 3.5 win catcher if he plays enough games. I truly believe that. I think pretty highly of Jake Rogers. And again, like, you're not catcher these days, like they have so much other responsibilities, like the defensively and like throwing runners out now with the rule changes and just like manning a staff. Like, people don't realize how much work it takes to be the catcher of a major league like pitching staff. It's so much work. That's why most teams don't expect, you're not penciling in like really good offensive production from your catcher spot for most teams, man. So if he can be a 20 home run guy and just raise the walk rate a little bit more and keep that average around 220, I think he could be a very valuable asset for this team for the next 3 to 5 years. And that's exciting. We got something from the Justin Verlander trade. Anything at all. Goodness. Let's not go down that rabbit hole, though. Let's get to the rest of this weekend. So we have, I guess we haven't really even talked about like the games themselves yet. Obviously a sweep. We're going to talk about the bullpen. We'll talk about the offense more in a broader picture over the weekend. Then we'll talk about the fantastic starting pitching from Tarek Skubal and Sawyer Gipson-Long from the weekend. But before we get to all of that, I got to tell y'all about our friends over at Jace Medical. If I can find the right tab, there we go. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand that you need. It's simple, and they have everything from online evaluations to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 as well by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's jasemedical.com, JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow, recapping Game 1 of this series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'll preview that series at the end of the show here. So talked about it. Some, people who had a good weekend and a little bit more of a big picture outlook in Verling and Rogers. Again, like once we get to the offseason, I'm in a position where I don't want baseball to end, and I'm going to be really sad when the Tigers aren't playing anymore. But I'm very excited for the offseason like content and conversations that we're going to have. We'll do in-depth, just like we did last offseason, full just season recap on every player and do a deep dive on everybody on this roster and kind of where they stand. But let's get to this weekend, okay? Let's actually finally, 15 minutes in, geez, talk about this weekend sweep. So as far as the bullpen goes, we're going to start there because they played a vital role in the weekend, and Sunday was a bullpen day. Miguel Diaz still rocking a 0 ERA at the major league level. Good for him. That changeup is really working for him. We're going to clump Joey Wentz in with the starting pitching conversation later in the show, so we'll pass on him for now. Jose Cisnero, he gave up the homer on, what was that, Friday, and then on Sunday went out there and had a walk and a couple of strikeouts. I'm done breaking down Jose Cisnero at this point. He's here. He's going to get some innings the remainder of the season. He's not going to be here next year. He's has a 5.5 ERA almost this season. He is what he is. Tyler Holton, 1 1/3 of perfect ball on Sunday, had another appearance this weekend as well. His ERA goes down to 2.10 on the year. Just continues to be an absolute dog. And then, Sunday they went to the A team there. Holton, Foley, Lang. Foley was really good this weekend, had a couple of scoreless outings. Alex Lang is really the biggest conversation piece once we get past like Miguel Diaz continuing to be solid and whatnot. So Alex Lang on Sunday, 1-2-3 inning, light work. Okay. Looked great. Very, very good. But certainly was not a fantastic weekend, as he looked pretty dreadful, to be completely honest with you. On Saturday, was just missing spots all over the place. Kind of took I don't want to say a step back because it was just one outing, but I mean, you watched that outing and it very much looked like the Alex Lang of old. He still didn't walk anyone, which is good. But he was missing spots just like over the heart of the plate instead of, a foot out of the strike zone. So wasn't great in that outing. He goes 1 inning, 3 hits, 3 runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs against, everything over the heart of the plate. His curveball is a plus pitch. It's going to be a plus pitch. When it's located even halfway decently. Obviously, that's a big stipulation there. And the changeup is a good pitch. I would like to see him throw the change more next year. Like the changeup's a weird thing where last year it was one of the better changeups like around. And then this year it hasn't been like a focal point of his repertoire. So I'd like to see him throw it a little bit more next season. But the biggest thing, man, we talk about it with a lot of these pitchers are kind of in a similar boat. Alex Lang needs to establish a really solid major league fastball. And like he has the velocity, he has the movement on it. He can get called strikes on it, right? He throws it on the inside, it tails over the heart of the plate. But I want to see a 4-seam fastball that can be as effective as his other 2 pitches. I think that would go a long way because right now, and especially there in the July month, like they got to a point where everybody was just kind of sitting curveball. And if it wasn't the curveball, they'd take a hack. And if it was, then they'd kind of just spit on it because it was going to be a ball low. So something to keep an eye out for there. I've said before, and like people kind of get upset when I say this, but like I think it's beneficial for the Tigers to just keep Lang in the closer role. I mean, we're only 2 weeks left now, but like I've been in support of keeping him in this role, this high leverage role for the second half, even despite his struggles, just for development purposes. So we'll see what he does the last 2 weeks of the season here. But nice bounce back performance on Sunday. Much more in the zone, low in the zone as well. Wasn't getting stuff over the heart and up belt high over the plate. So good on him. But definitely something that's going to be a big talking point over the offseason is going to be who is the high leverage closer for this team in 2024. That's going to be one of the biggest discussions of the entire winter. Okay. Let's go to the offense. Very solid weekend. Obviously, Friday was a complete just dismantling of the Angels. They win 11-2 and then score 5 runs on Saturday and Sunday. They went 4 for 20 on Saturday and Sunday with runners in scoring position. I'm going to keep just pounding that drum, man. I know people are annoyed by it. I'm going to keep bringing it up. It's a valuable necessity to be a good Major League Baseball team, and this team can't do it. 4 for 20 is not great, right? That's not a fantastic number. It's not a fantastic line with RISP over the weekend, but bailed out by, we talk about it all the time. If you're not going to hit with RISP, I've been saying this since April. If you're not going to hit with RISP, you need to hit for power. And over the weekend, they got a jolt from the home run ball. They've been crushing, and I know people are going to point at Comerica Park and the dimensions, but they've been hitting a lot of home runs on the road in the second half of the season, and they lose a ton of games at home. So, like, it's been a frustrating dynamic there. They seem to find their home run stroke. I don't think it's a dimensions thing. A lot of these home runs are to the pull side. Comerica isn't as deep as people think to the corners. It's a center field problem. So I don't think, and we can look at some of those numbers in the offseason, and I know that some people disagree with that, but like I think it's just an inconsistent, like not super talented baseball team. And for whatever reason, they run into more on the road. And that was good to see over the weekend. We'll take it. I'm not going to complain about a sweep. So we'll gladly take it. I think as far as individual performances, we talked about 2 of the bigger ones coming off of the weekend on Sunday. Torkelson had a fine weekend, not awful, not fantastic. Carpenter, again, we're still seeing like the OPS is falling and the average isn't, because it's just consistent singles. Like we've gone a while without like a Carpenter extra base hit, kind of like big, whether it's a big moment or not, honestly, just like in general. Like he's hitting a lot of singles lately, so something to keep an eye out for there. Yeah, I mean, and then besides that, I think it's weird that Javi Baez is DHing. Like, I don't know if he, the broadcast has been saying he's been beat up a little bit. Maybe there's like an injury thing going on there. But like all of his value comes defensively. So like it's weird for me to DH a guy with a 585 OPS who's one of the best defenders in baseball. That's kind of weird, but like if it's just about getting him at bats but not putting too much pressure on his body or whatever, then I guess I would understand it from that perspective. Meadows, not a fantastic weekend. A couple of walks thrown in there is nice to see at least. Andy Ibanez, I guess, was fine. Solid weekend. Had a multi-walk game for the 5th time in his entire career. Oh, Andy Ibanez, love him to death. So yeah, like it wasn't like this was this weekend. They swept, they scored a lot of runs. It wasn't like it was because of like the leadership, or like there was a front runner out there that was just like had a fantastic offensive weekend. It was kind of just every day it was someone new, and they hit some homers in some timely settings. Obviously, Rogers with 2 homers on Sunday, he certainly led the charge then, and then everybody hit on Friday. But yeah, solid weekend all around. They did enough to win every single game, and that's about as much as you can ask for at this point in the season from a team that's going to finish the season under 500. So good on them. Let's move on to the starting pitching, because that, for me, that's like the biggest storyline of the weekend. The starting pitching this weekend was absolutely fantastic. We will do that right after I tell y'all about our friends over at Sleeper. The MLB playoffs are right around the corner, which means the clock is ticking on your chance for 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is now, with studs like Acuna, Betts, Ohtani, and more. And you can pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, for up to 100 times your payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right and you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So let's get to the starting pitching, man. Like this was really me burying the lead here. Like the starting pitching this weekend, I thought was absolutely just fantastic. We'll start with Joey Wentz. Not technically the starter. He was the piggyback starter. He went 4 1/3, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Man, my heart sank when he gave up the homer, because like he really had a solid outing, and it just fell apart there at the end. Really unfortunate that the final line is not going to be the prettiest thing in the world, when I thought that this was a solid Joey Wentz outing for like what we've seen out of him this year. I thought this was good. It was needed. The biggest thing with this one was just the curveball. He was throwing it like crazy, and I'm not against it. Again, like we've talked about it so much on this show. Like his biggest issue is he doesn't have a good fastball. His fastball gets absolutely crushed consistently, and it has all season. So the fact that he went, okay, I'm going to throw my curveball, which he hasn't thrown a ton this season. He threw his curveball a lot in high leverage counts as well, consistently. I mean, he struck out Jared Walsh. Like it seemed like he would just throw 3 straight curveballs low and away to Jared Walsh every AB, and it was just good morning, good afternoon, good night. So to lefties, he was really using that curveball low and away, but really just in general, man, like he was not afraid to throw that pitch in high leverage counts. I was impressed with the curveball, and I hope that he continues to throw it more. I hope we see him a couple more times this season, and he can hopefully keep utilizing that pitch sequencing and that pitch mix rather. I liked what I saw, and I felt really bad that he gave up the homer at the end there. I also, just for kicks, okay, just literally for kicks, I want to see one outing where he just doesn't throw his 4-seam fastball. Right? Like it's not sustainable. It's pretty much impossible for him for that to be his repertoire, because his cutter is only like a 85, 86 mile an hour pitch, right? If his cutter went 90, I would have suggested him dropping the 4-seam fastball, 5 months ago. But you need something in today's day and age of baseball. You're not going to carve people up with 86 as your hardest pitch and then like 3 off-speed pitches, right? Like 86, 81, 78. Like that you can't be a successful major league starter with that. But just give me one outing where you just don't throw the 4-seam fastball one single time. I just want to see what happens, because the other pitches don't grade out poorly. So I'm just curious. Let's move on to the other two fantastic starts from the weekend. One from Tarek Skubal and one from Sawyer Gibson Long. Let's start with Scooby. He was just absolutely fantastic. If for my money, it might not be the best line of his major league career, although it's going to be one of the better lines. He goes 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 9 strikeouts. The 1 earned run was obviously the solo homer by David Fletcher, who is like one of the worst is not the right word, but one of the least powerful hitters in baseball. One of the worst power hitters, like least pop in bat. You know, him and Nick Madrigal are like widely considered to be the two like least powerful bats in baseball. So obviously, because baseball is baseball, in one of the best starts of Skubal's career, that happens. But he was fantastic. He was remarkable. Actually, I was blown away. That's the kind of start you look at and you go, you know what, this dude has ace ceiling, right? This dude legitimately has like top of the line, top of the rotation type of stuff. And there was a stat earlier, I'm trying to find it on the fly, which is very unprofessional of me, but over the last like 100 innings thrown, Tarek Skubal has, here it is, starting pitching leaders, last 300 pitches thrown. Okay. Tarek Skubal has the most whiffs in all of baseball. Out of the last 300 pitches thrown by starting pitchers with 60. We have Emmett Sheehan, 59, Nick Pivetta, 58, Cole Reagans, 56, Spencer Strider, 54. Then the last 300 pitches thrown, Tarek Skubal leads baseball in whiffs. And fewest barrels allowed, Tarek Skubal has allowed 0 barrels in his last 300 pitches thrown. That is absolutely remarkable. What a fantastic statistic. And it is, I need to give credit for that. That's my fault. Let me find the stat again. But he just is remarkable. And like the biggest thing was it's just it's an FU fastball that starts it all off, you know? Like that's from John Anderson. There we go, on Twitter. And it's just a fastball that starts the whole thing off, man. 99 on the black this entire outing. The changeup, I thought that this might have been the best his changeup has looked in his entire career. Almost a 50% CSW percentage on the changeup in this outing for him. And he threw it 27 times. He threw it almost as often as he did his four-seam fastball that goes 98 miles an hour. Like, I can't say enough good things. The slider was good. Threw the curveball, 6 times for good measure. Why not? But 18 whiffs, 11 of the 18 whiffs were on the changeup. 11. Like it's remarkable. And when you have to sit 99 on the black and then you get, the changeup that goes 84 low and away and it's falling out of the zone, you really have no chance unless you guess right. So, and David Fletcher did. So good on Fletch. Tip of the cap to Fletch God. But Tarek Skubal with an unbelievable performance and really kind of gaining optimism. I think that's really all I wanted to see out of him. If you want to talk big picture really quickly, like after the injury, I just wanted, I didn't need a certain ERA to be hit. I didn't need a certain strikeout number to be hit. I just wanted to see the version of Tarek Skubal's stuff that was going to give me and this fan base enough optimism to where we can look going into next season and be like, you know what, this dude might just be the front of the rotation starter for this team going forward if he can stay healthy. And I think that he has done that since coming back from injury. Let's go to Sawyer Gibson Long. And then we'll talk about some big picture stuff here at the end of the show. But Sawyer Gibson Long with an unbelievable outing as well. Let me pull up his stat line here. It's the one downside of Monday shows is I have to like jump around from box score to box score. I can't just look at one. And that was the wrong one I just picked. So that's going to delay even more time. This is great radio. Now I'm saying Tarek Skubal's name. Sawyer Gibson Long. There we go. Goodness gracious. 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, and 11 strikeouts, 1 home run given up. His ERA on the season, 2 starts is now 2-7. 11 strikeouts in 5 innings. He had 10 Ks and 20 whiffs through 4 innings. That is a real stat. He looked absolutely incredible. Look, the one knock, if you have one, is just efficiency. But like, this is this dude's second start of his major league career. And he just went out there and had 11 Ks in 5 innings. Again, little inefficient at times, 3 walks in 5 innings. You'd like to cut that number down a little bit. The pitch count was pretty high. That's why he only went 5. I think that's just about like consistently attacking. But I mean, goodness, I would be a moron to come on here and like complain about what he has given us so far at the major league level in his first 2 starts. Man, his changeup is filthy, disgusting, gross, vomit-inducing. That thing is a legitimate plus pitch. I love watching his changeup. I love it. It almost, like, it's not slow. Like, it's 86 miles an hour. It's not like he's throwing like a frisbee up there. But man, the spin on it is so impressive, and the way that it just seems to hang up there, and in a good way, hang up there and then die, fall off the table at the end, is absolutely fantastic. Excuse me. The slider, another, like this slider looks like a legitimate plus pitch. Man, his changeup was not put in play. His changeup was not put in play. He threw 20 changeups, 0 were put in play, 2 were fouled off. And it had a 60% CSW percentage. It's not like they were all just balls out of the zone. You know how remarkable of like a dominant single pitch performance that is? 20 changeups, 10 whiffs on 20 changeups, 12 swings on 20 changeups, 10 whiffs on 12 swings, 2 called strikes. That's unbelievable. That's as dominant of a performance as you'll see from like one individual pitch, genuinely. 23 whiffs in 5 innings, 10 on the changeup, 9 on the slider, 2 on the sinker, 2 on the 4-seam. Phenomenal pitch sequencing. I think the thing with him, people are going to adjust. Okay, I can almost assure you, whether it's in the last 2 weeks of the season this year, or whether it's in April of next year, depending on where he starts off the season, people are going to adjust and he's going to get popped. Okay, he's going to just put up an absolute stinker at some point. And the reason why is going to be because people are just going to sit on his slider and changeup and his off speed. And he's going to have to then adjust to their adjustment by throwing the fastball. And that's what I'm interested in seeing. We clearly have seen that his slider and changeup have the ability to be insanely plus pitches at the major league level. And that's awesome. That's about as much as you can ask for 2 starts into a major league career for a guy that you got for half a season of Michael Fulmer, right? Like this is already a win. But if he truly wants to take the next step, it's going to be when people adjust, and they will, and just start sitting off speed, how often and how effective is his 4-seam fastball going to be at the major league level? It goes 95, and it has spin. I think it has the ability to be a plus pitch. But that's what I'm interested in. So we'll keep an eye on that. Tigers win 70 ball games this season. That's it for the weekend. Very solid. With the sweep, they reach a 70-79 win total. I tweeted this out, but just to give you a quick rundown of what they would have to do in the remaining 13 games to hit some certain totals. So with a 70-79 record, if they were to go 13-0 the remainder of the season, they won't. But if they were to go 13-0, they would go 83-79. If they go 8-5, that would put them at 78-84, which would be the best Tigers record since 2016. If they go 7-6 the remainder of the season, that would put them at 77-83, which would tie them for their best record since 2016. That would tie the 2021 season, which all gave us a lot of optimism and people loved, where they won 77 games, 77-85 rather, not 83. Then if they go 4-9 the remainder of the season, that would put them at 74-88, which was my preseason win total. So looking like they have a chance to exceed my expectations, and my record was called like the overly optimistic homer going into the season. So I think that's a good sign as far as fan base interpretation goes. And then just for kicks, even if they were to go over 13 and they would go 70-92, sadly, that would still be the second best record the Tigers have had since 2016. So there you go. Guaranteed reaching the 70s. Again, like we're talking about a team where going into the season, I'm remembering back to all of the preseason predictions that I saw in the comment sections in my episodes and on my social media. Whole heck of a lot of 68, 69, 70 win totals, and they're gonna surpass all of those. So I think that this was a fine building block year. We'll talk way more big picture stuff in the offseason. Scott Harris's first year at, running the show, what kind of building block we're setting going forward. But I think we're going to look back at the end of this season and, if they win, 74 to 77 games, I think people are going to look back. And if you think, oh, if I was told they were going to have this record in March, would I be happy with it? And I think a lot of people are going to realize the answer to that is yes. So good on them. Let's preview the Dodgers series really quickly, just the pitching matchups. 10 p.m. start times all week for the Dodgers series, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 10 o'clock, 10:10 rather, starts. We have Lance Lynn against Erod. Oh, boy. I didn't realize that was happening. Erod pitching against the Dodgers. Really, baseball's remarkable. The storylines write themselves sometimes. Erod pitching against the Dodgers tonight as you're listening to this on Monday night, going against Lance Lynn. Then we have a TBD against TBD on Tuesday. And then we have Reese Olson versus Bobby Miller on Wednesday in the series finale here. So, you know what? If you can go in here, I don't know, like, are we really expecting more than a win? If you can not get swept in LA against the Dodgers, I think people will take that. I think we kind of have to. We swept LA. We sweep the other LA. We sweep Anaheim. You give yourself a little bit of a cushion. Where like, okay, if we kind of lay a dud against the Dodgers, it's not the worst thing in the world. You can think bigger picture in those 6 games. If you were told going into the weekend, we're going to go 3-3 against the Dodgers and Angels, I think most people would have taken that. So if you can even salvage a win against the Dodgers, I think most people would be pretty pleased with that. So let's see. And then you have a 4-game set against Oakland this weekend on the West Coast as well before you come back home to end the season. So there you go. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow recapping Game 1 against the Dodgers. I appreciate y'all greatly. Season's almost over. That's sad. But like I said, I'm pretty excited about the conversations that we're going to have this offseason. I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding this team, and that's exciting but also terrifying. All right? Thanks for tuning in throughout this entire season. I appreciate you all greatly. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.